Welcome to the Friday Night Campfire Stories. My name is Rob, and I will be your host as always for this evening. So, throughout the week, we try to keep it as scary and as creepy and as eerie as possible here on the channel. And I do my best to do that for you guys every single Friday when I share a chapter from one of my short stories. However, we try to sprinkle in a little other types of terror throughout the week, and for me, although my stories may be scary or creepy, they're not real. They're made up in my own head. But the terrors that are the most scariest to me are the ones that are real. The ones that happen to people just like you and me every single day, to people who least expect it. That's why every single Wednesday we do a deep dive into a true crime case that I get to share with you guys here on the channel. I do want to say this week, I do want to preface the video because it is a little bit different. You see, we're going to Mexico to look up a case of one of the most terrible tragedies that has happened in recent history. But with that, there's a lot to be unknown about what actually took place on that night in September of 2014. I also want to say that I'm not familiar with Mexican culture really, or the government, politics, lifestyle. And so with that, I don't want to point fingers. Usually with unsolved cases, we try to come up with the best theory that we can to figure out like what could have happened in these unsolved cases. But with this, I don't want to do that because, like I said, I'm not fully aware, and I'm not fully comfortable with pointing fingers at people or groups or anything that may or may not have to do with this case. So instead, what I'm going to do is just share the story of the case of what happened to the best of my ability. And also, with that being said, obviously there is a little bit of a language barrier, so there's a lot of sites and a lot of reports that kind of contradict each other. So I did triple check my work, and I think to the best of my ability I was able to create a script that is worthy of telling you guys. But with that being said, there also could be some facts or something that may not be correct, and I do apologize for that. But with that being said, I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get into it. This is my series, Far From Fiction. On the night of September 26, 2014, students from the Ayotzinapa Rural Teacher College in Guerrero, Mexico gathered. They were set to commemorate the anniversary of a massacre that happened in 1968, which was when the Mexican armed forces opened fire into a large crowd of unarmed Mexican civilians. The students got on the bus that was heading for Mexico City. However, there seemed to be a planned attack on the bus ride there, because for 43 students that were on that bus, they went missing and were never heard from again. The Teachers College, known for its activism and focus on social justice, primarily serves underprivileged communities. On September 26, 2014, a group of students traveled to Iguala to commandeer buses, a common practice, to attend a ceremony in Mexico City. Upon arriving in Iguala, the students commandeered several buses. As they attempted to leave the city, they were intercepted by local police. What followed was a series of violent confrontations. The bus pulled aside with roadblocks and with armed policemen, shooting at the three buses that contained the students. The events are a little unknown of what actually happened when the bus was stopped, but there was one survivor of the attack who gave his story to Vice News.
At about 9 p.m., the students' caravan was heading out of the city when they were cut off by police cars. Then the firing started. Police shot indiscriminately toward the three buses. Ernesto Guerrero, one of the survivors of the police attack, told us what happened that night.
Cuando cruzamos el Zócalo salen las primeras patrullas y empiezan a accionar sus armas. Interceptan al tercer autobús en el cual yo iba, inmediatamente empiezan a disparar. Después nos empezamos a defender con piedras nosotros, con lo que encontramos. Y aparte les gritábamos que por qué nos disparaban si nosotros no teníamos armas.
¡No tenemos armas! ¡No tenemos armas, señor! ¿Por qué está apuntando, pues? ¿Por qué apunta?
The only visual record of the shootout is this video shot by one of the students on his cell phone.
Te estoy grabando, cabrón, apunta, apunta, te estoy grabando. Que te vean cómo la apuntan a estudiantes.
Y nos cierra el paso. Adelante policías, atrás patrullas, nos empiezan a rafaguear por todos lados.
¡Ya mataron a un compañero! ¡Ya mataron a uno!
Nos empiezan a rafaguear, a mi compañero Aldo inmediatamente le dieron en la cabeza, cayó. Actualmente está con muerte cerebral.
The student states that from the remaining survivors, they were handpicked by the police to be thrown into these police vans and taken away. The total number of people taken was 43, and none were heard from again. The attack was violent and brutal, leaving 6 of the students dead and 25 injured. The Mexican government's initial investigation, termed the Historic Truth, concluded that the students were killed by a local group and their bodies burned in a landfill in Cocula. However, this narrative faced significant criticism due to inconsistencies and lack of concrete evidence. The Historic Truth timeline went as followed. October 5th, a mass grave that was believed to house 28 to 34 of the students was found. Their bodies were charred and tortured. However, forensic evidence denied these bodies belonged to any of the students. On October 27th, police arrested several members of the local group. They claimed that they stated that one of the larger groups of gang affiliates received a large number of people on the night of the abduction. This is what caused the investigators to go find the mass grave they supposedly had found. On November 7th, the parents of the students met with the Attorney General of Mexico. He had stated that they had found the remains of 3 of the students, and one of the gang members they had arrested confessed that they had murdered about 40 people on the night of the attack. The victims were dumped into a pit and then lit on fire, burning their bodies to nothing but char. However, the parents met this news with skepticism. It had rained the night of the abduction, making it hard to believe that a fire could have burned the bodies. They also stated that the arrested members had burned all 43 bodies with just 5 gallons worth of gas. There was also very little evidence of the bodies being found. There was such a small amount of remains for 43 grown adults. This could have been just the parents refusing to believe that their children were killed by this group, which I was believing to be true, because 5 gallons of gas probably would have started a fire, and the rain, unless it was like monsooning, would not have put out the fire of that size instantly. I still agree with the little remains due to the amount of people that it would have been, but it still seemed that the Attorney General was telling the truth. That was until 7 years later in 2021. A video taken by a drone belonging to the Mexican Navy was found. The footage was from 1 month after the alleged abduction had taken place. Where was the video from? It was from the reported grave of all the students. On this video was suspicious activity and military vehicles that were around the area. As stated earlier, this is 1 month after the attack and shortly before the Attorney General had met with the parents. This was the part that led me to say the government wanted to push the attack under the rug and move on from it. But why? Or was it even true? And where are the 43 students who are still missing, and why did they go missing in the first part? What happened next was very sad, but some of the bodies were tested and one of the tests came back with a match. Alexander Mora Venancio, who was 19, was one of the victims in the mass grave. They were able to compare bone structures and matched it with DNA given by his brother and father. However, none of the other students were identified, uniting the country to find the remains of the 42 students who had disappeared. 2 other victims had been identified since. Josevani Guerrero de la Cruz was also confirmed to be one of the bodies. The other belonged to Christian Alfonso Rodriguez, who was actually found about a half-mile away from the dump that the others were. What was strange about this was they found this one in July of 2020, and an anonymous tip led the police to the location where the bones were found. As of today, these are the only 3 victims to have been identified. Independent investigators, included by those of interdisciplinary groups of independent experts, GIEI, challenged the government's accounts. They found no scientific evidence supporting the mass incineration of the Cocula landfill. Alternative theories emerged suggesting the students inadvertently commandeered a bus containing hidden drugs or money, leading to the violent reaction. Possibly that they were smuggling drugs, causing the police to open fire on them. Other theories believe that a rival group could have been trying to intercept the buses and dress as police to help their efforts. However, no investigator or reporter believes that the student or buses had anything to do with drugs or smuggling. However, no investigator or reporter believes that the students or buses had anything to do with drugs, smuggling, or gang affiliates. All of these students were training to become teachers and would have not been involved with anything to do with this nature, and sadly were most likely just innocent bystanders. As of January 2025, the case remains unsolved. While partial remains of the 3 students have been identified, the fate of the others is still unknown. Families continue to demand transparency and accountability. Recent investigators have implicated higher-level officials and military personnel, suggesting a more extensive cover-up. The disappearance of the 43 students stands as a stark reminder of the challenges Mexico has faced with corruption, impunity, and human rights violation. The relentless pursuit of truth and justice by the families and supporters underscores the enduring hope for a resolution to this tragic chapter. So that is going to do it for today. I hope that you guys did enjoy. If you did, be sure to click that like button, hit that subscribe button, because we are on the road to 50 subscribers. Also, I would recommend checking out Vice News' video and documentary on this case if you are interested and want to know more. They do a very good job, and yeah, I definitely want to do a big shout out to them. So that is going to do it for today. Like I said, I hope you guys did enjoy. Click that like button, hit the subscribe button, and as always, thank you for spending a little bit of your evening here with me.